Gaines, it's a pleasure to be here with you, my friend.
It's good to be here. This is the first time I've ever felt like a celebrity in my life.
That's
Jimmy
good.
Rex podcast show. This feels good.
Well, I appreciate that, dude. It's funny. I mean, we've known each other for, I don't know, a decade now or whatever, and we recently got back from Business Mastery, Tony Robbins. It was kind of fun to go with you to that because, I mean, we've always known each other more on the friend level, right? We've never really talked business, and that seminar was just strictly business.
It was, yeah.
I got to see a side of you that I hadn't seen before, and I knew you had a successful company. This show's about, you know, exceptional people living extraordinary lives. You're one of the 3 founders of EcoShield, which is one of the largest pest control companies in the nation. I think you guys, you told me, correct me if I'm wrong, but at Business Mastery, I think you said you guys are on, your last 12 months did over 100 million?
Yeah, I'm on pace to do 100 million this 12 months, and so.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of blew me away because it's like, I've always just known you as like Gaines, my buddy. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I knew, again, like that you did well, but so one of the things that I remember about you, the first time I ever met you, I think was in Lake Powell, which is where I meet a lot of my friends, but it turns out on this podcast. But there was about 100 of us.
Yeah.
And I think we were all just sitting on the beach, hanging out, and you and Alan Millay walk out of, you had like your own tent up on the beach, and you guys walk out in full suits. I hope you remember, of course you do, but you guys walk out in full suits, and you just walk through everybody, like we're not even there, and all of a sudden you just walk straight, full suit, into the water, and we're talking like business suits. Right. Walk right into the water until your heads are underneath the water. It was the funniest thing I think I've ever seen in my life.
Those were our legit swimming suits. Alan, like, he's got these great ideas, and I think we had newspapers in our hands, and he was just talking about mergers and acquisitions, and we just walked into the water, and someone yelled out, like, "Is someone getting baptized?" We just walked in the water. But that same trip, I remember my most memorable Jimmy moment of that trip was, it was like a Star Wars scene. You did the Roman candle fight, and you said, okay, here's like dozens and dozens of Roman candles. It's all of you guys against me. You put on your shades, and this is at night, and you go into the water. And I don't know what kind of fireworks
I had a Roman candle that shoots 200 balls, and each of you had like 2 Roman candles that each shoots like 10 balls, but there was like 30 of you, so.
Yeah, we were like, boo, boo, and you're just mowing us down, and it was the coolest scene ever.
Well, what was funny about that is, so I had just broke off, I had been engaged, and I didn't really know anybody in the single scene, and so I thought to myself, like, I got invited to go on the trip, but I didn't really know anybody. And I said, okay, I need to do something memorable, because there was a lot of people. There was like 100, 150 people going. And I said, I need to do something memorable where people will be like, okay, I want to get to know that guy. Yeah. And I've always tried to do that, right? Like, become an asset where people want to meet you, as opposed to just trying to always meet people, and you have nothing to serve or to give them. And so I said, well, I'd done these Roman candle wars with my friends, and so I was like, well, if I do one of those, I think it'll work pretty well. And it could not have worked out better. Like, every single person was like, the whole summer was like, dude, that was the funnest thing in Powell. Like, I remember Eric Hill was there, and a bunch of other people, and that's how I met everybody, really.
You started off, with a firework bang like that. That is so funny that it's at Powell. Like, the things we've done at Powell, they're normally reserved for like Vegas shows or like just these huge productions, but we just do them on the beaches of Lake Powell.
Well, it's funny is because like for years, like none of our friends drank or partied, and so we had to come up with our own fun all the time, right? Like, when you're not drinking, you're coming up with your own thing, and so I think we really did always put in that extra effort. One of the things I want to, if anybody's listening to this and can help me out with this, I want to get like 8 people that build like little wood boats. Yeah. And we put stacks of hay on the boats. We go out to Utah Lake with those big Roman candles and like big just cakes and everything, fireworks, and we shoot each other till everybody's boats burn up, and the last guy standing wins.
That would be like a real life battleship.
I'm going to put this together at some point in my life.
I hope I get the invite.
Of course.
I'm there.
We'll have an EcoShield bow.
Yes.
This is what we're doing. So
I love it.
Well, awesome, man. Well, tell me a little bit your journey, because to be where you guys are at now, over 600 sales guys, you guys are doing over 100 million in revenue this year. But I know you didn't start this way, obviously. But one thing I did learn about you is how hard you work. Yeah. You are so focused, even at Business Mastery. I'm like, every 20 minutes, got to go get a drink or go get a granola bar or something. And you were so focused, and I really learned a lot watching you work in that environment. But give us a little bit, back us up in a little bit, how you got to where you are today with this company. Yeah,
so I think I'm the beneficiary of just amazing genetics. All my relatives are brilliant people. And my grandmother, she was actually one of the 7 people on the Manhattan Project.
Oh, wow.
That developed the atomic bomb.
Yeah, of course.
So she's really brilliant. And then My older brother is, he's like the real life Tony Stark. Like he developed a nuclear reactor at age 18, got hired by the government at age 19 to do this research. And so now
you're actually like the black sheep.
I am, and so then I'm the bug boy of the family. The family reunions are the best because they're like, hey, John, how's everything in the Middle East with nuclear fusion? And I'm like, well, pest control's great for anyone who's interested. But they left all my relatives, they have this legacy of just always learning. And so, I went to college at University of Arizona. I knew I wanted to be a business owner, and they had the top entrepreneurship program in the world at that time. And so I ended up going to school there, and while I was there, so I'm not from Utah, I'm from a little town in New Mexico, go to the University of Arizona, and while I'm there, someone invites me to go sell bug spray door to door. And my knee-jerk reaction was like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I'm envisioning like walking around with a can of Raid, knocking on people's doors like, hey, you want to buy this for $5? I just bought it at the store for $3. I'm like, what kind of margins are we working with there? And but they're like, hey, just come meet our boss. You'll love this guy. And it happened to turn out that he was from my hometown. He's about 10 years older than I am. And his name's Greg Nygren. He's a fantastic human and just a great business mind. And so I went to work for this guy, and we're still partners now 13 years later. And so I've learned so much from him and my other partner, Doug Carden, and so who's also from a small town in New Mexico. But I guess like the principle there is just, if you're lucky enough to find a mentor in your life, really like latch on and enjoy the ride. And so, but that carried me through undergrad, and then.
How did you go from just randomly meeting them, at an introduction? Because I think everybody, if you live in Utah, has been invited to meet a summer sales manager, right? At like, P.F. Chang's or something. But,
right, yeah.
How did you go from that? What was it about you in particular, your case, that you got to become partners with these guys so quickly?
Yeah, I think they just aren't very smart, and they're like, hey, Gaines is a cool guy, let's get him to work with us. I was shocked, so I was just like the typical like salesman and sales manager. It was a means to an end. It was, let me pay for school, let me pay for law school, let me pay for these other businesses that I want to get going. And then I remember my first year of law school, they had just sold their previous business, the one I used to work for, and they said, hey, we're going to start over, like, come partner with us. And I remember being so flattered. It was like, man, these are guys that I've looked up to for a long time. And I joke with them to this day, I'm like, you guys were insane. I cannot believe you took such a gamble on me. You guys must have seen something that I didn't see at the time. But I think a lot of people who have had any level of success, they've had someone like that in their life that they were able to see a little bit farther down the road than we can sometimes see.
Well, and I think you probably see that now that you're one of the owners and you're managing so many people, that you just see certain characteristics in people where you say, I'm going to take a chance on this guy.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't work out, sometimes you get burned, but it is kind of fun. I think every young, like you said, young entrepreneur, that young energy and that spirit, if you're young and you're listening to this, like older people love that.
They do.
Because they thrive on that energy. They need that energy around them. And so if you can come with a certain energy and just bring that positiveness to their day every day,
right,
you're going to get opportunities that you frankly probably don't deserve.
Totally, yeah. And I for sure did not deserve it. And so looking back on it, I'll always look for people in my organization that I'm like, okay, who are the Gaineses of my organization? The guys that actually, don't deserve it, but they for sure will. Mm-hmm. And those are such, it's such an intuitive read on people. You can spend a half hour with someone and you just get a sense of their character and their potential. And you're like, okay, this is the guy I'm going to take a gamble on. Like, I'm willing to invest in this guy. And I'm fortunate to have a lot of those guys that I work with right now.
Well, I think women intuitively have this. Somebody once told me is women aren't necessarily attracted to a man that has money.
Yeah.
They're attracted to a man that has the ability where if he lost everything tomorrow, they know he could get it right back.
Right.
It's that same, and that's the reason why a 16-year-old can be just as attractive as like the guy that's 40 that has, you know what I'm saying? Like
right.
If he has that potential, it's just as attractive. And women, I think, pick up on it really well. They do. If a guy inherits money, they might be attracted to the money,
right,
but they're not attracted necessarily to the guy,
right,
because they, if they think he's weak or whatever else.
Yeah, I agree completely. Like, for me, it's 2 words: it's purpose and motion. Like, you can just sit down with someone, and that's why you and I have always connected really well. Is like, you were so purposeful with everything you do. Like, if you take Jimmy like on his face, you're like, okay, this guy creates amazing experiences. Like, he has done every person's bucket list. Like, if you were to combine the world's bucket list, you've like checked it all off. But it's always with purpose, and it's not like, yeah, I'm just kind of a sports fan, so I'm going to go to the World Series. Like, you're so intentional about everything you do, and so I think you having that, you can recognize that in others, and that's what really makes people magnetic, in my opinion. Is are they going somewhere, with purpose?
Well, I think to your point, it's a way for me to justify anything that I want to go do, right? Yeah. It's a way for me to, like if I do want to go to the Super Bowl, for example, well, if I can create a great experience for some other people with me, or I can create these memories with other people that completely can justify whatever it is. Right. But there's a million reasons to go do those things. But I definitely believe you build something by design and with purpose. So I'm glad that you pick up on that.
Oh, it's just, I love like following you on social media and everything else. Like we cross paths, probably once every 2 to 3 months. Mm-hmm. And I just love seeing like what Jimmy's up to, because it's always by design. It's always so intentional. And those are the people that you just want to surround yourself with, people that have that purpose. And, a lot of people are just so confused these days. Like we're so bombarded with conflicting just philosophies and strategies. Like for every advice, do A, there's something that says no, do Z, not A. Mm-hmm. And so like, where do you go? If you find people in your life that are like, this is the road I'm going down, and they're going 1,000,000 miles an hour down it, just grab on and hold on, because you're going to be in for some experiences for sure.
Well, it's I always think back and bring up Eric Hill again, a friend of ours that passed away a couple of years ago. Is all the rewards in life come on the other side of that fear, right? Of that uncomfortability, and so. I always tell people, like, listen to your heart. You know what you want to go do, but you also can't listen to the fear, which is more your monkey mind, right?
Right.
And so it's like, if you can get past the fear, but listen to your heart, you'll know what you need to go do.
Yeah, and no, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I've been, the past couple of years, I've been in this thing called the Unbeatable Mind Academy, and it's by a former Navy SEAL commander named Mark Devine, and he talks a lot about the monkey mind, but also talks about just getting really comfortable with fear. Like make fear kind of your friend, because when fear shows up, if you can just have a relationship with fear, you're going to learn a lot about yourself, and that's really where all the growth is. Is like, okay, I'm scared to do this. Why am I scared to do this? Okay, that's probably irrational. I need to get over that irrationality. I'm going to go and do that. And then anytime I've done that in my life, really cool things have happened. And you almost get to the point, I'm sure you're this way too, like where you start to crave those moments. Mm-hmm. Like you're super successful. Like I've had a little bit of success in my life, and the fear that I have is just being comfortable. And a lot of your guests have talked about that, like that fear of comfortability.
Yeah, the fear of my real estate coach when I was younger always said the number one thing we're trying to keep you away from is being complacent.
Yeah,
that was the word he used, because it is easy to get comfortable, right? It's a lot easier to sit at home and just hang out and chill than to go put yourself in an uncomfortable situation where there's a lot of variables that you don't control.
Right.
But like you said, all that growth comes from those opportunities. I love the idea of having a relationship with fear. That's such a powerful statement. Yeah. Do you have any like specific examples, something you can think of something that, because you're a pretty adventurous guy too. I mean, you're always flying over the world and hanging out with all sorts of amazing people and doing cool things. Do you have an example of something maybe you were afraid of that people would just see you doing it and be like, oh, Gaines just did something else awesome, but
the NBA Finals are going on right now, and I might get arrested for talking about this. So, hopefully we know a good lawyer somewhere.
Yeah, so they'll be over by the time we release the episode.
Okay. So 2016 is the year the Cavs won, against the Warriors in this, 4-episode saga. But Game 4, I was in Cleveland, went to the game, and then afterwards I'm just hanging out watching, some of the post-game ESPN crew talk about things. And one of my friends when I was young taught me, keep walking until someone tells you to stop. Mm-hmm. So I'm just watching the court, and I look behind me, and the tunnel's right there. I'm like, I wonder what's going on in the locker room. So I just walk back into the locker room, like towards where the locker room is, and the security guard's like, where are you going? Where are you going? But he's behind me. So I just keep walking. And all of a sudden, I'm shoulder to shoulder with Steve Kerr as he's walking to his press conference. I'm like, hey, Steve, great game, because they had won that game. And he's like, hey, thanks, And then, so I just keep walking. He walks to the podium, and I walk over, and there's Steph Curry's family. And so I got to meet Steph Curry's family and hang out. And then all the Warriors come out of the locker room. I'm shaking hands, just like hanging out with all of them, just loving life. When I went to school with Andre Iguodala, and don't repeat this. He used to cheat off me in political science back in the day. I ran into him. I haven't seen him in a decade, and so we got to catch up. But I have all these conversations. I'm loving life. As I walk out, I see my reflection in the mirror, and I'm wearing a Cleveland Cavaliers shirt that they handed out at the game, so I'm just rubbing elbows with all the Warriors, wearing Cavs gear, and I just laughed about it. But I was like, what happens like if they actually find out I'm not supposed to be here? And that's just a small example, but anytime the heart rate gets up, like you're in the right spot. Probably.
Well, it's so funny you said that. Doug Cartwright taught me that, back in the days. Like, dude, you just pretend like you belong, and you're going to open waters. Like, we went to the Alabama-Auburn game, the Iron Bowl, and we walk out, and it's like, there's access to the field. He goes, just follow me, dude. We know what we're doing. I was like, yeah, we're in. Let's do it. And we just kept walking. We ended up watching the whole game on the Alabama sideline just because we acted like we belong. And like this year, another example, I went to the slam dunk contest. Donovan Mitchell was in it, and I won. And I was like, it was in LA, so there were celebrities everywhere. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to go down there. Yeah. And so I start, do my thing. I go down there, and I'm hanging out with Shaq and the dude from Black Panther. And next thing I know, it ends. And I just walk out onto the court, and I'm sitting there, and I'm hanging out, I'm talking to Donovan, I'm taking my, selfies and stuff. And after about 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, this guy comes up, he goes, hey, you don't have a pass to be down here. I'm like, oh no, I don't have a pass. He goes, well, how'd you get down here? And I go, oh, I just walked down here. He goes, well, you gotta leave. I'm like, cool, sounds good, see you later. Like, that was
so simple.
It's not like,
so simple.
People are like, how did you get access to the slam dunk contest? I saw you on the court. And I'm like, yeah I just walked out there.
I don't think I've ever seen you at a sporting event where you're not on the field, or
and honestly, half the time I just go walk down there.
Yeah.
Like, same thing, the first time I ever did it was 2004, was the World Series when the Red Sox broke the curse.
Yeah.
And after the game, I went to game 4, and I was with my brother and a buddy, and it was in St. Louis, so there wasn't very many Red Sox fans there. And we go down by the dugout, and there was all the family members, about 100 fans and friends, and they're wearing the ones they're letting them on the field, they have a wristband on.
Okay.
And I see this kid on the front row, and he's not wearing one, and I'm like, oh man, I need to get on the field,
Yeah.
And one of the Red Sox owners or GMs or something, he knew him, and he's like, hey, Larry, get me on the field. And I just threw my arm around the kid like we were best friends. I never met him. I said, yeah, Larry, get us out there. And Larry, I can't remember his name right now, but he points to the two of us to the security guard. He goes, let those two on. He thought I was with the dude that he knew.
Right.
And so next thing I know, the cops are helping me onto the field. The same game where the curse of the Bambino had been broken, and I'm on the field running around, I'm holding the trophy up, I'm throwing balls into the crowd. It was like that first moment where I'm like, how did that just happen?
Right.
But that opportunity came just from not having fear of taking advantage of a situation.
Yeah, if you can become well acquainted with fear, make him your buddy.
I love that you actually had a Cavs jersey on, or a Cavs shirt on, and you're just hanging out with the entire team. That's the best.
Yeah, it was memorable for sure. But that whole idea with fear, like, I think a lot of listeners would be like, but I'm scared, so I don't want to do those things. It just takes conditioning. For sure. This is what I recommend. Like, this is the easiest thing ever. So I hate the cold more than anything in the world. Like, so Superman, kryptonite, Ganes, cold water, cold weather, whatever. And so how I started, getting used to fear was I take cold showers every morning. And I've done this now for probably 2 years. And still every single morning I step into my shower and I just look at the nozzle and I'm just like, okay, I do not want, this is terrifying. The scariest moment of my life happens the first 30 seconds I'm awake, and it just takes, cold always comes before hot, right? So you just twist it that much and all of a sudden you're facing your fears. You lose your breath for like 2 seconds, and then it just makes you bold for the rest of the day.
Wow, that's such a powerful life hack. It's just so simple, right?
So simple. Cold showers.
Okay, I'm gonna start doing that. I'm gonna report back to you how it goes, because I think I'm pretty good at doing those things anyways. But the idea of taking a cold shower does make me like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, and a lot of people think like, oh, you get used to it. No, you don't. You never get used to it. Well, at least maybe I'm not tough enough.
I interviewed James Lawrence a couple weeks ago, the Iron Cowboy, and he's like, people just are like, well, yeah, you're a runner. He's like, no, this still hurts just as much every time now as when I first started.
Right.
It's just you condition yourself to be able to put up with the same amount of pain. It's just you're better at dealing with it.
That guy's a hero. That guy's
he really is.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, if you haven't listened to that episode, go back. He's a phenomenal story about it.
Incredible, yeah.
Well, I want to dive into something else that you talked to me about. Is you had a mentor that really was powerful in your life.
Yeah.
I want you to talk to us a little bit about that experience, how you got to know that person, and what you learned from your first big mentor.
Yeah, so we talked about him a little bit earlier, but a guy named Greg Nygren, and he's the one that was willing to take a risk, on me. And I think what I learned from him is just the whole idea of purpose. Like, he's so intentional with everything that he does, and he's one of the most just shrewd observers of people. He is so calm. And so But what I learned quickly is that success always leaves footprints. And, for any entrepreneurs, I think the single most important thing you can do early on in your career when you're young and dumb is find someone who's a little bit older and smarter and say, hey, like, let me add value. And this is what you're the best at ever, but let me add value to your life. Like, how can I improve what you have going on? And there really is, people really do. I think we're just hardwired to want to have mentor apprenticeship relationships in our lives, no matter what stage of life you're in. Like, I still actively hunt out mentors. And I know that, I work with a lot of people that need to choose better mentors because I'm their mentor, but they, and it's such a natural, thing where I want to help those people. Anyone that comes to you and says, hey, like, can you just talk to me about, what made you successful? Can you talk to me about what I should be doing? Can you talk to me about my goals and aspirations? All of us have that natural like inclination to help those people. And whether it's, a bug guy like myself, or it's, a billionaire in the tech field, like, people still have that. And so
I think most successful people like to share and help other people get there, right? I know, like, I had an agent that was working for me, and she was basically, she wasn't doing very well. She wasn't doing the things that I'd asked her to do, and I said, hey, like, do you want me to mentor you? Like, do you really want me to push you? And she said, yeah, I want you to push me. So then here's what we're going to do. Every single day, here's how many contacts you're going to make, and then you need to text me every night to let me know how many you got and how many appointments you set. She did it the first day, and then she didn't do it again. The next 2 days went by, and I said, we're done. Like, you weren't hungry enough. Like, the old story, like, of Socrates or whoever it was that went down to the water and put the dude's head in the water when he wanted to learn. He said, when you want to learn as bad as you wanted to breathe, then, you're ready. And I really believe that. Like, if you find, it's awesome when you find somebody that's hungry enough, that's really willing to do it. And so that's the advice I give people is like, look, if you seek out a mentor like you or somebody like me and you waste our time, we're not going to keep, like, I'm not going to talk you into going to work every day.
Right.
I will mentor you and help you in every way I can. And so, like, when somebody like you came along, I'm sure your mentor was like, man, I love this kid. He's doing everything I ask. He's soaking up everything I'm telling him. And it gets the mentor excited. It gives the mentor an energy that he looks for. And so it's really fun to find those people when they're actually hungry and willing to learn.
It is, and I think two things that you're talking about. One is that I love that you held her accountable. I'm kind of like developing this new just belief that if you really love somebody and care for someone, like, you need to hold them accountable. Like, that's one of the most ultimate expressions, really, of professional love is accountability. And anytime we don't want to hold someone accountable, we're like, oh, we'll hurt their feelings. They're probably having a tough time. There's probably a rational reason why they didn't do X, Y, and Z. And so we're like, really, we're just being selfish because we don't want to be the bad guy. And so it's out of selfishness. So if you really care about someone and have a professional respect and love for someone, you do need to hold them accountable. And people are really bad at that these days. And so I'm glad that you were one to do that, because for all those young, hungry, entrepreneurs out there, like, be willing to be held accountable,
Yeah, no, it's a very, very broad. When I started in real estate, I mean, I had this debt I had to pay, so I was forced to, like, do the thing. But I had it's funny looking back because I had an accountability coach, right? And I was, every day, I gave him every number, and he laughs. Like, we talk about it now, and he laughs. He goes, Jimmy, I was coaching 40 people. You were the only one doing it every day. I just thought that's what I was supposed to do, so I guess I should do this. But he was, like, laughing about it later because that's why your career took off when a lot of people faltered out.
Yeah. People just feel like our time is obviously one of the most valuable resources, and so if we invested in someone, anytime we get a return, we get excited about that. We get that dopamine hit, and we have that young, hungry person. We're like, man, I just want to keep working with this person. And I think you've probably found this too, but I love the people that approach me to, like, be their mentor, and then we'll start this coaching relationship, and then they challenge me. They're like, whoa, Gaines, like, you're doing this, like, why? Shouldn't you be doing it this way? I love those people. I love the ones that, like, force me to be better. Because then that whole relationship with fear comes in again. It's like, am I being a bad mentor? Like, am I doing things wrong? Then we get to talk to Mr. Fear, get some exposure to him, and then we grow from that.
That's great. Well, something that you've done so well is scaled your business. I mean, to have over 600 sales guys now, how do you hold so many sales guys accountable, and how do you keep that growth on the trajectory that you guys have been on? Yeah,
so it's been an evolution. I used to be a really, really bad manager, and I treated management like leadership. I thought management was just one size fits all. Here's the playbook. Here you go. Sales rep 1 through 50. Here's your playbook. Go and do likewise. Terrible. I think leadership is kind of more universal. Like it's more of, I would say leadership is like checkers. The pieces all move the same, whereas management's more like chess. Like every piece is so unique. And with management, it's a lot more scientific. There are formulas and things like that you can apply. So I think my secret's really simple. It's that if you have a deep love for every single person that comes into your organization, from the person that's been there one day or the guy that's been there a decade, and you treat them all the same as far as emotionally, that's really important. And then I think whatever industry you're in, the thing that really gets people upset, frustrated, and unhappy is ceilings. So if you can take ceilings off people, you truly get their best version of themselves.
So how have you guys been able to do that?
Yeah, so with our model, it's really simple. Like anyone who comes into our organization, they have the opportunity to become an equity holder in the company. And so every single person that walks through the doors, and our pitch is really simple. It's like, don't come work for me, come work with me. And we've done that now 18 times. So I have 18 other partners that have come through the systems from being brand new to the company, and they now own part of the company. And that has been, I think that's changed everything. And then you allow them a lot of creativity, and you really find, if you can find the right person and put them on the right seat on the right bus, amazing things happen. And that takes some trial and error, that takes some accountability conversations, and that takes going really deep with people with what their core values are. And if you can take your company's mission statement and align it with someone's own personal mission statement, that's when it's just unbelievable. That's when really people start to blossom, and then you just get to sit back and enjoy the ride. Like you just get to watch amazing things happen.
So how did you come up with your own personal mission statement, and how do you help your guys come up with one as well? Because I think it's something 99% of people don't have a personal mission statement.
Yeah.
So it is so valuable when you can come up with that. But how did you come up with yours, and what is it? And then if you don't mind sharing it, and then how do you help your guys?
Yeah, so I believe in 3 things. Work hard, be obedient, and smile. If you do those 3 things, life is so simple, so easy, so amazing. It doesn't matter where you are in life, young, old, where you're at with relationships, where you're at professionally, anything. Work hard, be obedient, and smile. The obedience part is to whatever you identify to be truth. And I think a lot of people do struggle to find truth. And if you're that person, to me it's really simple. It's just start exploring what you think may or may not be true. And as long as you're willing to have some self-awareness and attack that head on and put yourself in uncomfortable situations on the margins of those truths, you really start to figure out what is true to you and what's not. And so the smile part, I think that's one thing that's made you really successful. I've never seen a sad Jimmy. Like, no one's ever seen very few people have seen a sad Ganes. Like, we just have this zest for life. It doesn't matter what we're doing.
For sure. And I think it's not that we don't get sad, it's that we don't let ourselves go to that place, right? It's, I give myself, okay, if something bad happens, it's like, okay, that sucked, or like, that was really crappy, but how do I pull myself out of that as quickly as possible? Because I owe it to the other people in my life that are giving me their love and attention and energy to not show up in a way that's going to negatively affect all of them.
Right. Yeah, and you're the consummate of that. Of like, you understand that every action you have affects the whole environment you're in. That's why you're always positive. I love that about you. And so, but as far as like finding your mission statement, I think there's 2 things to really help. One is read more. We're so bad at reading, and the more you read, like, your podcast is amazing. Like, and so I've learned a lot from all the amazing guests. I feel like the guy on the C team to all the varsity guests that you guys have had. And so, but listening is great because we really develop emotional connections when we hear something. When we read something is really where we start to develop logical connections. And for a mission statement, you need both. You need something that logically makes sense to your core, and then there needs to be an emotional aspect for it. So read more, and the second is what we've talked about already, which is just find someone that embodies that and really test your hypotheses. Like, I think this is my mission statement. This guy seems to embody those principles. I'm going to go see and find out. And I think it coalesces really quickly. And if that's your deliberate strategy, be okay with emergent ideas. Don't be so forced into dogma that you're like, okay, when I was 21, I made my decision that this was going to be my core principles, and they're unwavering.
Well, I hate that part of politics where they're like, he's a flip-flopper, he changed his mind on something. I'm like, well, no shit, he evolved.
Right, exactly.
Like, that's fine.
Right.
Like, I actually encourage somebody that's willing to evolve. Every time I give my own beliefs, whether it's on how to I live my life or what I believe from the afterlife or anything else, I always say at the end, oh, and by the way, I reserve the right to change my mind whenever I want.
Totally.
Like, this is what I currently believe,
right.
but as I receive more information, that's going to evolve and change, I'm sure, over
right.
time. So I'm always evolving, always trying to change and not being stuck in this like black and white, this is what I believe, so I have to dig in.
Right.
And make sure that I stay correct on this. Like, I love when people evolve. And I always say, like, you know, it's frustrating, like, you either have both ends of the spectrum. You have the strong conservative that will never change. Right. And then you've got the liberal who is, like, takes all their pride and significance in how much they've evolved and changed.
Right.
And neither one wants to give either one of them time to meet somewhere in the middle, right? It's like, hey, give me time over here. I've lived this way my whole life. I'm trying to learn and understand this. I don't currently, but I'm getting there if you'll let me. And then this person, like, hey, maybe understand, I know you're a free spirit or like whatever, you're super liberal, but you know what? Give me some credit that, hey, there is some value in like my beliefs in the strong family. There's some beliefs in the, you know, maybe I need to come a little bit further to the middle to understand your side of this.
Right.
But I think when we can get to those spots and we don't dig in our heels, everybody benefits from that.
Totally. We just become so bad at listening, you know, like we're just like, no, I know, like I've earned this knowledge. I know. And, you know, there is a lot of deliberate, you know, things that go into knowing something, but be open to emergent type things. Like be like, you know, you don't know it all.
Well, I love that you read as much as you do, because I'm sure that's what's helped you to evolve and to come up with all the ideas and things that you've...
I'm not a very smart guy, but I'm really, really good at learning from smart guys. Like that's, you know, it's just amazing the wealth of knowledge that we have.
I always joke, I'm smart enough to know that I'm stupid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you and I share that. We're both just two stupid guys talking about life.
Whatever, you know. I do though. I read a lot of people are always like, "Oh man, that's really good. Where'd you come up with that?" Oh, I read it in a book. You know, that's whatever.
Yeah, you're a voracious reader. Like I remember a couple years ago, you had your 100 books that you read.
Yeah. I think I'm at 35 so far this year. You know, I love to read.
Yeah.
What about right now? What are you reading right now? Like, what kind of book are you?
So I just picked up The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. That's been really good. And then a book called 8 Weeks. I think it's 8 Weeks to Still Fits by that Mark Divine guy I brought up earlier. And then I just finished. The Wolf of Wall Street. He just came out with a new
Jordan
book.
Belfort. Yeah, the straight line selling. I just finished it as well.
Yeah, and so
say what you want about the guy. He knows how to sell.
He is a great salesman, and he crashes yachts, which you and him have that in common now, just sinking ships.
Dude, so many people are like, you're officially the Wolf of Wall Street now that you've crashed your houseboat yacht. So yeah.
I think with reading too, like be willing to read things that you don't want to. You know, I think a lot of times we read things to create an echo chamber for ourselves. Like we're at, you know, on Amazon and we're like, oh yeah, that seems like something I believe in. I'm going to pick that up. And we're like, yeah, I agree with all this stuff. And so we feel really good about it because it's comfortability again. Pick up something that you might not believe in. And, you know, the Wolf of Wall Street actually, like, I knew very little about him. And I only knew like all the bad stuff, the drug usage and, you know, the womanizing and all this stuff and sinking yachts, going to jail, ripping people off. So I picked it up. I was like, okay, I wonder if there are any pearls in here. Absolutely there are.
Yeah, no, I definitely read it as well. I wanted to learn what he did so effectively to get people through the sales process, because that's really what the book...
Yeah, and one thing like law school just beats into you is you have to hold opposing ideas in your mind at the same time and be okay with that. And really just be neutral enough where you can really analyze. And so that's, I always say that the two things you learn from law school are, one is there's no right or wrong answers, only good arguments. And the second is that anytime you find yourself in a legal predicament, spend as much money as humanly possible to get the best representation, because it's worth it. So those are my two law school takeaways.
Yeah, because you are a lawyer on the side here. You have a couple side gigs, so you're a lawyer. Do you practice law at all, or do you kind of do anything for the company through that?
Yeah, there's a lot of capacity that I'll hold within the company. But yeah, most of my legal expertise is just towards new businesses. And so I'll help new entrepreneurs kind of get up and running and do some of the legal things that they might not have the right awareness to do. And so,
well, it probably helps you though, just in general. I know, like with my master's degree, it's in real estate development, and I always joke the one thing I learned is that I don't want to do real estate development.
Yeah.
But what I learned more than anything was how to break down a business by the numbers, something that I previously was very poor at. And I can actually look at the numbers of a business now and say, yes, that's going to succeed, or no, that's probably not going to succeed. And I'm pretty accurate since I graduated with that degree. And so I don't necessarily use my degree, but the knowledge is still in me, right? And so I'm sure you learned so many pearls going to law school and becoming a lawyer.
Yeah, and those were really the most important ones. Is the ability to. I know you're a huge Indians fan. When it was Indians and Cubs, I'm not like this massive Cubs fan, but one of my businesses is in Chicago, so I have this natural affinity for the Cubs. And Anthony Rizzo's a golf buddy of mine, and so I'm pulling for them. If you come to me and you're like, yeah, the Indians are the best team ever, normally you would say like, no, screw you, they're not. The Cubs are, right? But what law school teaches you, you're like, okay, well that's your argument. Like, why? Like, substantiate that for me. Talk to me about that. And then you just have this open conversation. You learn a lot about that, and then you can say, okay, well, you brought up 7 points. That proves why the Cubs are actually better, and then you can kind of like do that. So
actually, I love that, and it's seek to get it right, not to be right.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a really important part. So,
well, another company that you have, something I want to kind of touch on a little bit, is your Mental Mojo.
Yeah.
This is so funny because you've got this huge successful business, you got your law degree, and then this is just like this side product. But I think you guys had over 500,000 in sales last year alone, right? So
yeah, we're growing.
What is Mental Mojo? I use it. I bought at my Sub for Santa auction. You donated a year's supply, so I take one every day.
Yeah.
But tell us how you even start something like that.
Yeah, so it starts with a story. So I'm in law school, which anyone who's done that, it's a walk in the park. Law school's super easy. They always tell you like those 3 years, just say goodbye to friends, say goodbye to family. You're going to be a library ghost. Like, you won't exist. And I always thought, I was like, okay, that I disagree. And so, like I don't think that's going to be the case. That's the same year my mentors came to me and said, hey, let's start a business. And so for those 3 years, I was getting a business up and off the ground, which takes a lot of time. I was committed I wanted to be the top guy in my class. I'm a really competitive guy. And so I wanted to get really good grades. And so for 3 years, like my routine was so simple. Like, I'd be on campus at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and I was either in class or studying. That was it for those 12 hours, 6 days a week. From 7 to midnight was when I would work. At midnight, I don't know why I did this, but at midnight I would go do a 2-hour workout. Like, working out has always been really important for me. It's, in some respects, it's more important to me than sleep. And so I'd go work out, and I'd come home from my workout, and I would study in my kitchen. And the reason I was in my kitchen is because I had this kitchen island, and I had to stand up to study, because if I sat down, I'd fall asleep. And inevitably, at some point, I would not have like recognition of this, but I would just meander over the couch and black out. And it got to the point where, so I was not a caffeine guy. I wasn't, any sort of, like, everyone in higher education, and that's a blanket statement, but most people in higher education, they're taking Adderall for the competitive edge, especially in really competitive law schools, because you're graded on a curve. It's not how well you do, it's how well you do relative to everybody else. And so everyone's looking for that cognitive edge. And so I would go, I'm not sure if you've seen Limitless, like where the NZT pill that he takes. So there's this scene where his life starts chunking, like where he doesn't remember how the dots connect, he just remembers the dots. That's kind of how my life became. Like, I would be studying in my kitchen, and then my next, cognitive, impression was I'd be in lecture at 9 a.m. the next morning, and I could not remember how I got from A to B. And so my good buddy Alex LaCroix, we went to undergrad together. We moved to South America in our lag year together, did a nonprofit, and then we're in law school. And he's like, man, like, we're not going to do Adderall. Like, we're not prescribed. It's a felony to take Adderall without a prescription. We're not going to go that route. And so we just started taking nootropics and started this, kind of biohacking like research. And those are just natural supplements that help your cognition, memory retention, focus, clarity, all those things. And we realized that they were all pretty bad. Even if the effect was good, they tasted awful. Alex is a creative genius. Like, the guy's phenomenal. He's really talented attorney now. But right when we graduated from law school, we're like, man, people are literally buying, prescription drugs without a prescription out of some stranger's hand in a dark alley for $5. That is market demand, right? And
Sure.
so we...
when I was at ASU, I'd come home about once a month. There'd be a note on my door.
Yeah.
If you need Adderall, here's the number to call.
Just
I was like, what is this?
Open solicitation. So much demand, and so it just started a really fun 2-year process where we teamed up with a lot of neurologists and biochemists and formulators, and it took us 2 years to come up with our formula. We were just hyper concerned with safety. Like, that was our thing. We wanted to have the safest product, and then we wanted it to be, really effective. And then we also wanted it to taste delicious, because what we were drinking tasted awful. It tasted like bark and like just it was disgusting. And so 2 years later, we had Mental Mojo, and it's been really fun, just giving people we consider it a healthy alternative to what a lot of people currently take. And
yeah, it's a good product. It tastes good. It tastes really good. So if that was
you're the one person that likes it, so good.
Oh, I think it's great. No, it's kind of a fun color. It's like it's like toxic green. You know? It's like
Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
You drink it and green they associate with genius, and so we want it to be like effervescent, like just kind of like brilliant, kind of like we want your mind to be. So
I love it. Well, so I want to kind of skip forward a little bit because me and you have kind of been on the same dating path a lot of our lives as well, and you've gotten into a really good relationship, and so I want you to talk for a minute to our audience. A lot of our audience is single guys and ladies, and what did you experience in the dating life, and what led you to kind of where you finally settled down? Because I think you're one of those guys that, is this guy ever going to settle down? You're one of those, you're always so busy and everything else. So what changes did you make or adapt into your life to get in where you're at now?
It goes back to that mission statement. It really is purpose in motion. Like for entrepreneurs these days, like we see the Gary V's and the Eric Thomases, it's like work 27 hours a day, even though there's only 24, like beast mode, grind. And so you kind of pick up on that, and if you practice those things for a while, you really start to become those things. And so what I found with my dating life is just that I had become so fiercely independent that I never really gave the girls I was dating a chance, because I knew the massive changes I was going to have to go through for me to be dependent on someone, which relationships, need that. There needs to be this level of dependency.
Yeah, that's hard, right? Like I never want anyone to be dependent on me, so I struggle with that for sure, letting somebody be where I depend on them, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a slight against like our masculinity. I don't need you. I don't need anybody. I can do this. I'm sufficient. And so, I think the paths you and I have gone professionally really have engendered that in us, where we want to be fiercely independent. And so, I think step one is just find someone that's amazing. Like the girl I'm dating right now, she's fantastic. She's patient. I had lunch with Warren Buffett one time, and he gave me the best advice ever.
Wait, you had lunch with Warren Buffett?
Yeah, when I was
back up. How did you get to have lunch with Warren Buffett and then unload everything that he taught you?
So I took a play from Jimmy's playbook, which is just add value to people's lives. And so I was a senior in the finance program at U of A, and there was this freshman, just a really cool guy. He joined our financial management association. And so, again, mentor, apprenticeship. We have a lot of themes here, mentor, apprenticeship type thing. And so I just took this kid underneath my wings, only because I loved the guy. He was amazing. And we start sharing stories from back home. I get to meet his dad. It turns out his dad used to work with Warren Buffett on a fund, and he just asked us one day, he's like, would you like to meet him? And I'm like, are you kidding? I was like, the Oracle of Omaha? Of course, I'd love to meet that guy. And so he facilitates it all. Like we flew out to Omaha, and we went to Warren Buffett's country club, and there was a group of us, and the nicest guy of all time. He's the guy that you walk into the room and you instantly feel like, is this my grandpa? He just has grandpa vibes all about him. And he was hilarious. He's like, he would share, some, investing wisdom, some life wisdom, and then he shared a lot of dating wisdom actually. And he's like, if you want to have a happy relationship, he's like, it's so simple. Don't look for the most attractive girl. Don't look for the funniest girl. Don't look for the smartest girl. Simply find the girl with the lowest expectations, and you'll be happy. And he said it jokingly, but it stuck with me. And so I changed low expectations to patience, and I'll send you my Warren Buffett notes.
Yeah, I always joke. I'm like, I'm really hard to date, I'm sure. Because I'm all over the place. I've got a lot of moving pieces. I literally have had, amazing women that, I was in Lake Powell, and there's a girl I was kind of hanging out with and started dating. And I just saw her frustration of how do I date this guy? And unfortunately, it's not going to work out. But I kind of had a level of empathy for her of I wish I was easier to date. I know I'm not, but those things. So that's very, very valid, valuable information.
And I felt the exact same. You and I, we have our codes, and for a long time for me, having a girlfriend was not part of that code. I did a lip service. Yeah, sure, I want to be in a relationship.
Till you are, then you're like, I need to get out.
Yeah, exactly. And especially when it's with the wrong girl. And a lot of times I remember some of the relationships I'd be in, I'd ask myself, is this how a relationship's supposed to feel? Because this feels wrong. And I didn't have enough relationship experience to be this is, so you get a little more experience, but, the girl I'm currently dating, she's extremely patient. And it's amazing because a lot of our core values line up. She's very hardworking, she is so passionate about what she does. She understands my passion. And so when I go to work, it's not like, oh yeah, my boyfriend's out chasing money or chasing fame or chasing glory. Like, she understands it really is my passion, just seeing people develop and this business develop, that I love it. And so she loves it. And same thing with her passion. Like, her passion is something that I had never had any exposure to, and I never really thought I would ever find myself passionate about that, but now I really am, because she's so passionate about it. And so I think a few things for your male audience, for guys that are super tough guys, that are really independent. It's just that you have to understand that you have these habits, these independent habits. So be self-aware, and then be willing to challenge those. And it all comes back to your relationship with fear. We're fearful of losing, but all great gains, that's my name, all great gains come through some sort of loss, preceding it. So I would say find someone that's patient, find someone that is passionate. If you're a passionate person, you have to find someone that's also passionate.
It's one thing I know about me is I have to date a woman that has her own thing that she's just lit up about. Absolutely. She has to have something that absolutely gets her out of bed on her own every single day that she just loves to work on.
I think you and I probably made the same mistake a lot of times, and we used to think, at least I used to, it's hard to project, but would be, I need to find someone that's not super passionate about what they have going on, so they can be passionate about
into my life.
Exactly. Like, my train's going 100 miles an hour, please jump on.
Yeah, it wasn't until about 2-3 years ago I learned that for 10 years I dated amazing women that were never going to work because I thought they would just fit into my life.
Right.
But I actually needed somebody lit up about their own things so that I could do mine over here.
Right. Yeah, and you really do have that alignment of purpose, of motion. And
that's good.
So I'm blessed, man. I'm really fortunate to have that relationship right now. And I learn something new every single day. And every day I always have to ask myself, like, okay, are you being good at yourself, or are you being good within a relationship? And that's just that self-analysis is really important for me. And I think if you're humble enough to do that, good things happen.
Well, one last thing I want to dive in with you, because you're so disciplined is a word that I'll use for you. And I love that part of your mission statement is to be obedient, because you are, and I've seen this firsthand. So walk us through real quick, what does a day in your life look like? What are some of the life hacks that you do? Yeah. Because I want my audience to hear, anyone listening to this is like, wow, this dude's got some stuff figured out. It's oozing through. It's very obvious to see with you. And so I want you to kind of share a few of those things with the audience.
Yeah, so I read this book. Actually, my friend Bo Martin gave me this book, Miracle Morning, by Hal.
Yeah, he was on the podcast.
Yeah, and so prior to reading that book, I was the guy that would wake up. If you need to be somewhere at 8, you have it timed to the second. You know what time you can roll out of bed. Shower is important, maybe not. Like, sleep's always more important. So, but then I read this book, and his main thesis is just that the morning's kind of like the rudder to your day. If you have great mornings, you're gonna have a great day. And so that changed my life forever. And that I call things in life a trajectory bump. That was a complete trajectory bump for me. So for the past 4 years, if I need to be somewhere at 8, I'm always up at 5. 3 hours before, because I have this 3-hour routine that I go through, and it consists of doing some sort of either prayer, meditation, just whatever you believe in, connect with that. I take my cold shower, which is, man, you do not need to be a coffee or caffeine person if you have cold showers. That wires you. So cold shower, I do my prayer and meditation. I'm a big believer in affirmations. And you and I did some with Tony Robbins, who's just hilarious. And people think it's corny and cliche until you do it. Like, peak state physiology is a real thing. So I try to put myself there.
Yeah, you just put those thoughts in your mind that stick there all day of what you're going to be or what you are,
Yeah, you're really hardwiring yourself to act a certain way subconsciously in the future. And then to reaffirm that, I'll do a visualization technique that I do. And I know you're this way. You're scatterbrained. We're like electrons. We're all over the place. Visualization has been really hard for me. And so I've really started to crave it because it is such a challenge. And I'll just visualize how I want my day to go, how I want my week to go, and really what I want my life to look like. This book, Psycho-Cybernetics, was completely transformative for me. And then you have to exercise in the mornings. You have to. 100% have to. Even if it's just one set of push-ups till failure. If you do that, you're just reminding your physiology that you're going to challenge it today and that you're in growth mode. That's all you need to do. And then I do a lot of reading in the mornings. I try to get up to 2 hours of reading in the mornings. And then I journal, which traditionally up until 3 or 4 years ago, I guess, I had 2 journal entries in my entire life. And they're in my Yoda journal in Crayola. And so that's my morning, and then I show up at the office, and from generally 7 or 8 a.m. I'm there till about 10 at night. 14 hours is kind of like my standard. Like I love 14-hour work days. If I can get a 14-hour work day in, life is so good. And again, it comes down to a patient girlfriend, be able to do that, and she's fantastic. And then at night I always just try to make a deliberate effort to make sure I check in with people I love. Like it's texting has saved my balance. I think like I'll shoot out 100 to 200 texts at night, just checking in with people, letting people know I care about them, and just that is such an emotional buoy for me at night. And then if I'm good at night, I'll plan my day the next day. And so those are kind of like my life hacks. The easiest takeaways: read every day, do cold showers, and challenge yourself. Like growth is everything.
Yeah.
If you're growing, like progress equals happiness is kind of the big thing.
That's what Tony talks about, those last 2 steps. I mean, just the 4 things to basically survive are the needs of variety, certainty,
Yep.
love, and significance.
Yep.
But the 2 that really fulfill you are growth and contribution.
Right. Yeah, and you're the ultimate contribution guy. Like that's why like I'm on this show right now. Is you're trying to contribute value to your listeners' lives, and so I need to get better at that. I love the growth element of it, and it's crazy. Like once you become a contributor, that is really where you start growing a lot, because you start doing things outside of selfish reasons, and that is really where all your faculties are unleashed. Is anytime you're doing something for another person. So
yeah, I think even with this, it's like, I get more lit up by when people message me or email me or text me about listening to your podcast with so-and-so and dude, I'm going to go back to college, or I'm going to do this, or it inspired me to call this person. And that to me lights me up more than anything. It's just the best fun in the world. Yeah, it's the whole reason you put all the effort into doing all this.
Right.
Dude, you're a stud, man. So much fun to have you on.
Yeah.
I think this was, there's literally, if you didn't take notes on this episode, sit down with a pen and paper and go back. Ganes has really created a life by design that is admirable on every level. I appreciate you, man.
Just trying to follow in your footsteps, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Ganes.
Yeah.